Mzilikazi Mashobana, from a military leader to a nation builder. Mzilikazi was a Southern African monarch who established the strong Ndebele Matabele kingdom in what is now Zimbabwe. He was born in 1790 near Mkuze in Zululand, now in South Africa, and died on September 9, 1868 in Ingama, Matabeleland, near Bulawayo, now Zimbabwe. Mzilikazi was King Shaka's greatest warrior, who led his followers over 500 miles from what is now South Africa to what is now Zimbabwe, forming an enormous and ethnically diverse nation along the way. He was a powerful statesman who united the numerous Bantu groups he had conquered into a unified, powerful kingdom. The underlying presumptions that he was an exceptional statesman or a ruthless military leader are contestable. There are assertions that the Ndebele settlement consisted of a hierarchy of divisions or provinces that was exclusively militarized. J. Cobbing's book Evolution of Ndebele Amabuto argues that the divisions never happened. The collective group conceptions of Amhlophe, Amakhanda, Amnyama, and Igapa were derived from four initial or proto-Amabuto that were developed before the Ndebele migrated to the Matopos region. It is possible to simply figure out the order in which Amabuto was created in the post-1850 era, with bursts of Ibuto development typically occurring in connection with historical challenges for the kingdom. Cobbings underline even more that while older, more established Imizi continue to exist as conceptions of allegiance to this day, Amabuto creations from the late 1860s such as Imbizo and Insuga fell apart following the European occupation in the 1890s. It is essential to understand the development of the Ndebele Ibuto in order to understand other facets of Ndebele society, including the rise of the chieftaincies, Izigaba, and the major local lineages, as well as the social and political context in which individuals were intended to achieve their aims. These are the regiments that eventually gave sections their names. Amhlophe meant the color white. Some claim that the men had white hair, but the majority of customs attribute the color to the feathers in the headgear. They came into being as a group in Zululand under the leadership of Mzilikazi during the migration. They made their home in the middle of Matabeleland with Ado-Ndlela as their operational base. Amakhanda, the forehead, was the metaphorical term employed to refer to the front line. They moved northward under Gundwane during the migration, establishing Enzwananzini as its headquarters as they settled in the eastern side of Matabeleland. Amnyama, maybe black, was the color of their shields. It was originally meant for a section of the Amakhanda and evolved from the unit known as Amnyama Angankomo, black like oxen, which conducted the initial inspection before the migration. Igaba. This came from the Igaba regiment, which was stationed in Egabeni at Mzilikazi's kraal. The migration led by Mzilikazi settled in Matabeleland's western region. During the reign of Lobengula, Emagogweni was utilized as its headquarters. Zulu named units that were considered very senior. It is possible that these units were assimilated into later regiments as they had no documented history following the occupation of Matabeleland. Dukada, Engwa, Imfagoceba, Indamane, Inzanayo, Ispiga, Ischama, Isquqa, Majolo, Mfihlo. From 1822 until 1837, these migration-related regiments were established. The following traveled towards the Zambezi with Mzilikazi. Ado-Ndlela, the pioneers. This regiment, which had always been at the forefront, commanded the Amambambo, Isizinda, and Magoloza groups, in addition to serving as the main one in the Amhlope division. Situated 12 miles south of the current Bulawayo, at the location of its kraal, is a memorial dedicated to Mzilikazi. It was eventually divided into 4: Sikulu, Amadiba, Ihlati, and Incinyane. Induna 1840, Gwabalanda Mate. 1870, Mlizana Mate. 1893, Lituli Mate. 1893, Amadiba Manyewu Diweni. Amagogo. The leaders had names that contained the word Gogo, Impongo, Umgogo, and Amahlogologo. This was the main regiment of the Ingama section and was composed of the following indunas under Mzilikazi's reign: Magqekeni Sithole, Mchechwa, acting, and Gambo Sithole, 1885. Inyanda. This was a huge regiment composed of smaller units, as explained by the word Inyanda, under Induna Mazini Kumalo and Induna Mlagela Kumalo. Umsizi, ravenous, which means they could easily destroy their rivals, ruled by Induna Mchechwa Masuku and Nsukumbili Kumalo. Amamambo, steadfast. Ilinga, the adventure, and Amapetelo, border regiment under Induna Nungu Kumalo. Inkani, Thornbush, a hard nut to crack, under Induna Magobela. Kumalo. Little is known of this regiment, whose kraal was on the edge of the Matopos. It may have been associated with Inyanda, which was nearby and always has a member of the Kumalo family as its Induna. The following traveled with Gundwane straight to Matabeleland. Bulawayo held back, which denotes an excessive desire to progress, with the execution of their famous Induna Mtikana Mafu. In 1885, this regiment came very close to an uprising. Induna Dambisa Mahubo Mafu. Executed in 1885, Mafu Mtikana. 1893, Maduna Mafu. Amacheche, the swift ones. 1870, under Induna Sito Masuku. Manyakavulu Masuku. Enga, of the same house, under Induna Nchumane Kanye. 1870, Loiswayo Dlodlo, and in 1893, Mgandane Dlodlo. Impangela refers to gainfowl feather headgear, may have been vanished or destroyed soon after ending the Nkulumane revolt in 1840. In June 1837, Dingane's invasion of Moseja nearly destroyed them. Ingwekwe, the hook which could capture an opponent by surprise, participated in the Moseja battle in 1837, and one of the injured men went on expedition to Lake Ngami in 1883. Induna Mkanyeli Masuku. Insinda, oppressor. Around 1840, Princess Nyamazana's Swati followers were merged into this regiment, Induna Chuwe Gwebu. Insingo the Reza, ruled by Induna Tludluluza Dlodlo, and in 1893 Somabulane Dlodlo. In Themba Trust, they raided Botswana at leg game in 1885 and suffered a severe defeat that, despite its existence at that time, it was not known to have fought in 1893. Induna Mojo Mlochwa, Klukutwayo Mlochwa, and in 1893 Solomon Mnguni. Inzwananzi, wide awake. Later on, it rose to become the Amakanda Division's main unit under Induna Mantinti. 1870 Mpiliwa Maguchwa and 1893 Malevu Maguchwa. Ispezi, the fleet of foot. This was also the name of Shaka's regiment, ruled by Induna Makundela Sigola and Ngabeni Sigola. Izinkondo, the spearheads, also known as Izinkondo Zimnyama spears of Amnyama, Induna Klukutwayo Mnguni. Oyenga, the deceivers, Induna Mlota Kumalo, and in 1893 Mligulu Kumalo. Umzinyati, Black Buffalo, the principal regiment, Amnyama, later Amabuto Division, Induna Majijili Gwebu. The names given by Norris Newman Kidd, Indunas of this regiment in 1894, Inkoni and Islabe, do not appear in any other list. They may have been Avalisa. In Tunta, it was created by Umzinyati's subdivision, Induna Mhabahaba Mkwananzi, before 1887. Liso Mkwananzi with Singalela Nkomo as Umlisa. The following traveled northwards with Gundwani after they arrived in Matabeleland. Inyati, the buffalo. The Inyati mission, the first European colony in Mplangeni, was founded in 1859 close to the Three Kraals of a renowned regiment. It relocated to the current Douglasdale in 1867. In 1893, Mzilikazi frequently resided with this unity, whose veterans continued to protect his grave. Induna 1859, Ntabeni Gwebu. 1867, Mbumbulu Gwebu. 1893, Mhlachana Nzima. Inhlanjwane. These were a border regiment, Induna Manyoba Ndiweni. Isizinda, the grief makers. They recovered cattle captured by the Portuguese commando in 1847 from Zwangendaba. Induna Mnengeza Fuyane, Mapisa Fuyane, and in 1893, Mgandini Umlisa. Magoloza, the smiters, Induna Tlekeleza Tebe, 1870, Mankanyana Tebe. Dibihlangu, the shield carriers, Induna Nungu Tebe, Mleche Tebe. While other sources question Gunyaliche's account of these two regiments being the same, they were indeed closely related, and their stories are notably similar. Dibintlangu may have been a minor company in the regiment, and its command may have developed independently of the main body despite being in the Tebe clan. They were both under Ado-Ndlela.